Okay, I went ahead and removed 17 more blades from the core after I shot the last of that video in part 2. And some of these came out really well. Of the 17, it looks like from here on, about 11 of them are going to be really good for the Maquahuitl. And the core is just about exhausted now because I really don't have much in the way of a platform to work off of. But I'm pretty pleased with the way most of these blades came out. So here's sort of a close-up of them. And this is the dorsal side. Just thought I'd show this. You can see the bulbs on here. Right now we just need to take each one of these blades and square them off on either end. We have the little bulb of percussion here that we'll try and get rid of as well. Some of this you can just do with your fingers. That's obviously too thin right there. But you got to be really careful because you can easily snap these blades in two. They're so thin. I'm just using copper. I could use antler. Copper a little quicker. I think I'm going to use this side. This will be the cutting edge on the outside of the weapon, so I need to turn this back a little bit more here. I have decided to put a maximum number of blades on this. In other words, there's not going to be much of a gap between any of them. So as you can see, this trimming can take a while to get done. I've got so many blades to do. So that end is okay, and then it's just a matter of taking the bulb and squaring that out. Tiny little flakes here, you'll snap the thing in two. Trying to hold it right up there so that I don't put a lot of torque on the main body of the blade and snap it too. Okay, there's one, and I just got to do that to all of them. Okay, so here's another one. This edge is a little bit straighter, so that'll be my cutting edge. So I need to trim it back to about here, and yeah, it's just so fragile, it feels like it's going to snap, so I need to do it like this again. Try and keep the flakes out of the end of my finger here, like I'm doing. I always bleed when I do make these blades. Okay, so there's another blade, and I'll just keep doing that. Okay, I've got my blades all trimmed. Ended up with 20 blades it took to go it's over 6 feet of distance, over 3 feet on each side. And I staggered them. Ventral, dorsal, ventral, dorsal. I'll show you. So I'm not sure how this is going to look, but this is the dorsal side, ventral side, dorsal side, ventral side. So it's going to end up being like that instead of scalloped. I have no idea how that's going to look, but if it looks bad when I start trimming the wood, I need to trim these grooves right here a little bit to make sure they fit in there real good before I actually glue them in place. And we'll see how that looks. A little shot of the blades after they've been trimmed. Okay, I'm ready to set the blades, and I had to carve it out a little bit because the blades are actually curved a little bit, so I needed to carve it out a little bit on each end of each blade all the way down to the end here. So I'm going to go heat up the glue and we'll get started. I'm heating up the pine pitch in the oven at 235 degrees. That seems to be working out just about right. Okay, right out of the oven. It's about the consistency of plumber's putty. 235 is about right. Not so hot that it burns the heck out of you, but not so cold that it's not pliable still. I must have picked that up too early. Let me try again here. I think I grabbed it too early, it's sticking to my skin. But what I'm trying to do here is roll it up into a long thin tube, and then we can put that right down in our groove and melt that down in there. So that should do it. Okay, I'm using a heat gun, and I'm just heating up that trough a little bit. Putting the pine pitch tube, kind of broke on me there, down in there. I want it to get all the way down on the bottom of the trough there. Instead of using my finger, I'm finding the finger kind of makes a rough texture on the pine pitch. Kind of do this because the hot putty knife seems to leave a much finer texture. There we go. I'll rub that a little more. So this is how it's coming along. I got looks like 5 blade sets so far. Need to smooth it out a little bit more, and this is Chris Henry's idea from Paleo Arts. Previously I was doing it with just trying to jam it in there with a putty knife, and I had a lot of trouble on the other one. This seems to be working a lot better, so thanks to Chris for telling me his little secret there. Okay, the blades are all set. It took an awful long time to finish this thing up. And now what I'm doing is I'm just taking some sandpaper, just going over it a little bit to get some of the pine pitch that got on here, and also I found this works pretty good just to it's kind of hard to hold this and do this at the same time, but just basically scrape the pine pitch where it got onto the blades and make a nice straight line there, just kind of detailing it out. Then I'm going to put linseed on oil, hand rub that into it, and that should be it. Okay, the last thing I like to do is just to finish a lot of my woodwork with linseed oil. So I'm going to hand rub some linseed oil on here, and I really like this stuff. It's real thick. Probably because I bought this container 44 years ago when I was 19 doing a gun stock, and I've been using this stuff ever since. It only takes a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and rub this whole thing with linseed oil tonight, tomorrow, and then we'll take it out in the sun and take a look at it. Okay, here's the finished weapon. Here's the opposite side. It's a bit darker grain on this side. Okay, if I was going into battle, I believe I would definitely choose this longer two-handed version right here. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's really going to intimidate the enemy. So clearly this weapon here had a different function than the smaller version. This must have been just an auxiliary weapon, probably in addition to some type of throwing implement. Okay, this really has a good feel in the hands. It weighs 2.5 pounds. I weighed it. It's not as heavy as you would think, and the amount of velocity and torque you would have on the end here would really be effective. I'm sure it would probably be able to sever limbs and other body parts pretty readily. Yeah, that feels good.